For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, finally, after 2 whole years, I finally watched Oppenheimer. And, there hasn't really been a specific reason as to why I haven't seen this movie. It's just that I sort of just forgot about it. Obviously, Barbenheimer was like the biggest event of 2023, and I did watch Barbie that year, but I only watched it when it came out on digital. I did not watch either of the movies in the cinemas, but I finally watched Oppenheimer, and yeah, it is definitely the opposite experience to Barbie. But even looking at it as a film by itself, this is an amazingly made movie. It really, I mean, it's 3 hours of people talking. Like, there's no action scenes, no, like big battle. Obviously, I mean, it's a historical drama. If you're expecting fight scenes, then you're pretty dumb. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not the smartest individual, so there were plenty of times throughout the movie where I did get fairly confused and I sort of just went with the plot. But there was that, because there'll be a character. Sorry if I still sound scruffy, I'm still sick. But there'll be a character in like the first act of the movie, and then they'll show up again in like the third act, and I would have completely forgotten who they were because they were in it for like one scene. But even when there was a spy, the Russian spy for the Soviets, and I don't know who that guy was. I completely forgot. So yeah, the only people whose names I remember, apart from obviously Oppenheimer, there was obviously Louis Strauss, who was RDJ. Josh Hartnett was Lawrence. And that is basically it. That's pretty much it. And I just want to get that out of the way first before I start talking about the actual movie itself. Is the cast of this movie is absolutely insane. It was ridiculous. Obviously, okay, you have Cillian Murphy portraying J. Robert Oppenheimer. Fantastic. RDJ is essentially the antagonist of the movie, Louis Strauss. You have Dane DeHaan here, and obviously I'm a huge defender of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I love The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't care what anyone says. I thought he was great as Harry Osborn. Dane DeHaan was here. The guy from Late Night with the Devil, The Dark Knight. I always forget his freaking name, but the main guy of Late Night with the Devil. Jack Quaid was here. Josh Hartnett, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, Matt Damon. I mean, every single scene of this movie, there's a character you could just point to and go, oh my god, it's that guy. It is absolutely insane. It really, really is amazing that they had such a huge cast for this movie. So yeah, I mean, that was interesting. But honestly, probably my favorite part about the movie, and this is gonna sound like super nerdy, but I don't care, is seeing all of these scientists who I've heard of, multiple. I mean, anyone who did physics in high school, you would know these people. I mean, of course, everyone knows J. Robert Oppenheimer. Niels Bohr created the Bohr diagram, which is like the diagram that shows like the nucleus of an atom, and it shows all the orbitals and where the electrons are along the orbitals, and it is really cool. So there was that. Then there was also the German scientist Werner Heisenberg, which I don't know. I only know his name because I know that he was the inspiration for the name Heisenberg in Breaking Bad. So that was really cool. It was cool to see him. Of course, you have Albert Einstein, who shows up, a few times throughout the movie. And yeah, it was just really, really awesome seeing all of these different scientists together, how they each played a part in the life of Oppenheimer. And it was just fantastic. It really, really was. So, nerdy, whatever. Like in the beginning of high school at least, and like most of it, I really enjoyed all of this stuff. So yeah, I think I was more engaged with this movie than a more like a regular person. But still, an average viewer it's like a 50-50 on this movie because, as I said, it is 3 hours of just dialogue. So it is very easy for a person to get bored. I know my sister did not like this movie, but I did not give a shit because she does not like anything. As soon as she said she found this movie boring, I was like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy this. But yeah, I just, because obviously I knew that this movie wasn't gonna be about the actual bombs that were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I knew that it was gonna be about the Trinity test, so I wasn't like expecting, like waiting the whole movie being like, oh my god, please can we just get to the bomb? So it was really really engaging. But as I said, it is very difficult to remember every character and what they did and who they were. So, when they mention so and so's name, you'll be like, who's that again? I forgot. But yeah, I watched this. Another complaint that I saw with this movie when it first released is people complaining about the sound mixing. Now, I of course watch it at home. I watched it with headphones and I watched it with subtitles. So it wasn't as bad for me, but I am like hard of hearing anyway. So the issue that people had with that is the issue I had with Sinners. What did I say? Okay, Sinners, where I missed like a third of the dialogue because I didn't understand what the fuck the characters were saying. But that isn't really the sound mixing's fault. That's just because of the accent and also the fact that I can barely fucking hear anyway. So, sort of like how I missed like a third of the dialogue in Sinners, people missed like a third of the dialogue in this movie because the music in the background was quite loud and things like that. There were things that drowned them out. So I could 100% understand people saying that, they didn't really understand this movie much. But getting on to the highlight of the movie, and that is the acting from the two main characters. Cillian Murphy, to me, is a man who has perfected the ability to express 1,000 emotions with a dead, stone cold face. The man would not smile. Like, if he could be not smiling, not frowning, not like, moving his eyebrows or anything, just a dead face. But you can see everything that's going on in his mind. He has absolutely perfected that, in my opinion. He is so, so good. And obviously, he won the Oscar for it, so that was good. That was good. Obviously, it was good. And I just have to commend the man, not just for this movie, but because he won the Oscar in 2023, he had to present the lead actor award for last year's Oscars. So I'm so sorry, Cillian Murphy, that you had to sit through Adrian Brody's 10-minute speech. the man just wanted to get out of there. And honestly, I couldn't really blame him. But there was that. And of course, the other Oscar winner, Robert Downey Jr., who is really who I wanted to focus on in this movie. The reason I say that is obviously watching it now in 2025, you obviously know he will be playing Doctor Doom. He will be playing a villain. And look, to me, I love RDJ. I do. I love him. But he sort of seems like Iron Man in real life. At least the way that he presents himself to the public. He seems very much like Tony Stark. And, his work outside of the MCU hasn't really gotten me that interested. Like he never really seemed like this amazing actor that everyone always talks about, even though he's getting paid like 85 or 90 million dollars for both Avengers movies. What the hell is that? That's like an entire movie's that's the budget of Sinners. That's the entire budget of Sinners just going to RDJ's paycheck. So I wanted to pay very close attention to him in this movie because he is the antagonist of the film. And it was so refreshing seeing him play a character that is so far away from Iron Man and seeing him actually try. I'm not saying he doesn't try, but you can tell here he really had to act his ass off. And I think the best scene he has is his last scene where he just loses it. He is so upset. You can see in his eyes, in his body language. It's amazing. And this, I am confident that they will make RDJ work as Doctor Doom. But this just makes me feel so much better. Knowing that he can play a villain, in this movie, antagonist. he can play an antagonistic character extremely well. So I really liked RDJ in this movie, and honestly, that scene, just alone, that scene, I think he is just as good as Cillian Murphy in the role of Oppenheimer. But one thing that I will give this movie a little bit of flack for is his love interests, Oppenheimer's love interests, because they never really flesh out how the marriage is between him and Emily Blunt's character, Kitty. Um, it like half the time it feels like it's a very unhappy marriage. Half the time it seems like they're happy. Like she's supporting him and stuff, and she wants him to succeed and things. So I don't know. I feel like that was a bit wishy-washy. Florence Pugh, that was. I mean, it was cool seeing Florence Pugh, but yeah, that it sort of just amounts to something that comes into play towards the end of the movie. So yeah, that is just one thing, but easily my favorite scene of this movie is the actual Trinity test. And not because it's what I was waiting for. It was just such a great scene because I was expecting this huge explosion. And, if you didn't know, that explosion was done practically. That is not CGI. And, thank you, Christopher Nolan. You're an absolute legend for that. But yeah, the actual Trinity test scene was phenomenal. It was absolutely amazing because the sound was just completely drowned out. The only thing you heard were the characters breathing, the characters moving. There was not a single sound made by that explosion, and it was just so good. I love that scene, and it really, that scene was amazing. And then it's immediately followed up by how the government thinks, what they think of this. They're like, right, immediately, little boy, fat boy, whatever the fuck they were called, send them off, bomb Japan, and there you go. It just goes to show you, like, how ruthless the governments are. And I think they did a fantastic job with that. They really, really did. They also did a good job at showing how Oppenheimer feels, once he has created this bomb. Because, of course, there are people telling him, you don't know what you're about to create. This could destroy the whole world. But, of course, as most scientists are, he's just excited and he's hoping that this will work without really considering the consequences of his actions. And once that Trinity test goes off, and then, little boy and fat boy are dropped, that's when you just see him change to where he really is struggling, to come to terms with what he's created, what he's caused. And again, Cillian Murphy portraying all of that with barely any dialogue, any facial expressions, just being able to do it with just his eyes. It is amazing. So, yeah, absolutely loved that. But there are two things. This isn't a negative on the movie. This is just two things that I didn't understand. The importance of the black and white. Because I thought that it was going to be like Better Call Saul, where, in Better Call Saul, all of the scenes that are in black and white are set in the future or after the events of Breaking Bad and the rest of Better Call Saul. So I thought it was going to be like a time thing, but it didn't really seem like it because there were times when it would be black and white, but then it would cut to the same scene and then it would be in color. And I didn't really understand that. It was some sort of filmmaking style that they went for. And if anyone could explain that to me, I would be highly appreciative. And the other thing I didn't understand was the conversation with Einstein. Because why did Einstein not, really show much attention to Lewis Strauss after the conversation they actually had? Because it's a big mystery throughout the movie that obviously we'll know what it is by the end, but it's basically Albert Einstein telling Oppenheimer that now you're gonna have to face the consequences of your actions. You're gonna have to deal with what you've created. That is essentially what the conversation amounts to. But I don't really understand how that made Einstein sort of just ignore Lewis Strauss. And I feel pretty dumb not understanding that, because that is a big part of Strauss's motivation throughout the movie. He keeps bringing up, he turned Einstein against me. Did I tell you about that? He turned Einstein against me. So there was that, and I didn't really understand how that conversation, quote unquote, turned Einstein against him. So again, if anyone could explain that, I'd be very, very appreciative. So yeah, overall, I would amount this movie to sort of like what I described Sinners as, is a masterful piece of filmmaking that isn't for everyone. Because, I wouldn't say, like, I feel like if I didn't know what movie this was, I feel like I would have been bored or annoyed. But I think just because it's a psychological thing, just because I know that this is Oppenheimer, that this is a Christopher Nolan movie, I didn't really feel like I was bored. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you go into a movie with that expectation, you sort of don't want to accept that you could feel bored. But I mean, I wasn't bored throughout the movie, so it's amazing, really. 3 hours of non-stop dialogue, and I never got bored. That is a huge achievement. And before anyone says that, oh, it's amazing that you didn't do this because of superhero movies, yada, 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 there's only one movie in my entire life that I never finished watching, and that is the 2017 Justice League. I stopped that movie halfway through because I got bored. So, anyone who says that, like anything about that, that's absolute rubbish. Because, yeah, this movie was very, very engaging, even though half the dialogue was extremely complicated. It was a lot of political things, and just a lot of complicated stuff. And I feel like if I didn't have subtitles, I would have absolutely died. And that is why I'm excited to rewatch Sinners when it comes out on digital. I believe it's the 3rd of June. I will rewatch Sinners with subtitles, and hopefully I'll enjoy the movie more, because I missed like half the dialogue in that film. Oh, one last negative I will give this movie. Okay, I wouldn't. This is sort of like the only real negative I had. The other things were just like sort of nitpicks or things that I didn't get. This is the only thing I can confidently say is a negative. And this is something that I knew when the movie came out, is how they use the line, that Vishnu script of now I'm become death, destroyer of worlds. That is arguably J. Robert Oppenheimer's most famous phrase. Even though, obviously it's not his line. He even says it in that video, that it was a thing from Vishnu.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Such an iconic line. And how did they use it in the movie? Him and Florence Pugh are fucking. She gets off, she walks around, gets the script, and she gets back on top of him and says, read that. And then he says, now I'm become death, destroyer of worlds. And then they immediately get back to fucking. Why would you use that during a sex scene, man? Like, come on. That is such a good line. And you used it like that. Come on, Nolan. that really annoyed me back then, because obviously I hadn't seen the movie, but it annoyed me back then, and it annoys me now. So yeah, that's just a slight nitpick. Again, I'm not a history buff, but that's something that really annoyed me, that they use that line in that context. So yeah, overall, I wouldn't say it's not something you would describe as an enjoyable movie. It is a good movie, but obviously because of the nature of it, you wouldn't say, oh, I can't wait to rewatch this movie. Oh my god, I can't wait to experience that again. It is a great movie that I don't think I will ever rewatch, or if I do, it'll be like 20 years. But it was a great film, amazing filmmaking, everything about it, the cinematography, the editing, the directing, the sound design, most of the movie, the dialogue, it was just really, really good. It really, really was. So yeah, man, I'm so happy to say finally after 2 years that I have watched Oppenheimer. And yeah, people definitely, overhype movies like this. I feel like They should not throw around these hyperbolic reactions of like, oh my god, when that title popped up, I was standing up in my seat, I was in awe, oh my god. Like, guys, you can say the movie, it's like people with Sinners. People are really overhyping it. It is good. Well, okay, I feel like I'm talking about Sinners too much. This movie is great. It is really, really good. But don't make it sound like it is like God's gift to man. It's a great film. But I still think The Dark Knight is Christopher Nolan's best movie. I'm just saying, relax. Okay. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. Let me know your thoughts on this film. Did you perhaps not like it? Because this is one movie that I have not seen a single negative review of. Well, from people that matter. So, please let me know what you thought of Oppenheimer 2 years later. Have you rewatched this movie since its release? And yeah, I think that is pretty much it. So, if you did enjoy this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.